Now we want to discuss in this section more about the master records for vendors. But as we have been saying, SAP has pretty much unified the concept of the master records, I mean, for customers and vendors. So there will be a lot of similarities, and of course we will try to do some things different. For example, we'll use transaction BP to create the vendor, but some of the first lessons might be a bit similar to what we had in the previous section for customers. So we have to go through some of the settings that are similar, but for example, another key thing that we want to show in this section is that the numbering, that means just the number range, is set up as external. That is the one that we will be using for vendors. So let's start this just showing the cross application components, and of course we'll just open here the SAP Business Partner, the business partner details, and we want to show now the grouping that we will be using for vendors. So let's start the define groupings and assign number ranges. And this is the one that we will be using. Again, this is centered a lot around the numbering, if it's external or internal. As you can see, even the description, we just have it as external. And the number range is AB. And the important thing here also, as you can see, is that external is being set up. So it's not just to say that the groupings are always about the number ranges, if just to set some groupings for internal numbering and some other groupings for external. You could use it for different purposes. As you can see here, we have some for real estate, or maybe you want to have different for different treasury partners or different customers. I mean, there are multiple things here to consider. You can create as many as needed. That is probably the most important thing for you to know, that this is a very flexible object and the customizing is just very flexible. But again, that just means that you will create as many as needed according to the your customer, the one that you're working with, the organization that you're working with, according to the requirements of that organization. So again, for us, this will be our example. We'll use the BPAB, which is holding an external group number. But let's actually check the AB number range. So just go back here and we'll start the define number ranges. So let's just click display intervals. And again, as you can see, AB, first of all, it's just being set up as something external. But also to consider, I mean, it's going to be alphanumeric, so that means we can also use letters, a combination of letters or only letters. Actually, it could also be only numbers, but most common if we set this up as external is because we want to type like a short acronym maybe of the vendor as the ID. But yes, we can even have a mix of letters and numbers, for example. I mean, it's just alphanumeric. So really interesting things now. Something that is a bit different with these examples for the vendor. And again, this is just an example. It doesn't have to be like this. You shouldn't think like, okay, so every time I have vendors, I would need to set this up as external. No, actually, both customers and vendors could have internal numbering, or both customers and vendors could have external, or again, it could be just a combination. That means that the vendors, for example, in this scenario, they are external and the customers are internal. In another scenario, the customers could be the ones that we set up as external and the vendors internal. I mean, there are pretty much like any possibility is valid. The SAP system will be able to or be capable to hold all of this data depending on how we set up the customizing. But that's the point. The customizing settings are the responsibility of the consultants, and it's of course a team because we cannot just decide everything on our own. We just have to consider all the requirements from the employees for the organization that we are working with, considering the scenarios, considering their needs, and then set up everything accordingly. So after we have seen this, let's just finish the lesson. but of course we still need to go through some more settings and then use the VP transaction to create a new vendor.